Welcome to Getting Real with Whitney and Wallace. I'm Whitney Van, a former television news anchor of 30 years, and now I have decided to live my life by design, and I'm in real estate.
I'm Wallace Myers. I'm a former high school student who got into real estate at the age of 18, and now our team sells hundreds of homes a year, and we've also made every mistake in the book. We're here to help you be the best agent you can be.
Absolutely. Avoid the pitfalls and some secrets of success. So thanks for tuning in to this edition. Whitney and Wallace Get Real with Maddie Catania. She is a 2-year agent and she has done phenomenal already. She started this business when it was really booming. Interest rates were around 3%. And yet, just last Friday, she had her first 7-figure closing. Wallace, she's mighty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely, Whitney. I'm so glad to have Maddie on today because not only has she closed, I believe it was around over 50 transactions last year as a not even 2-year agent. She'll make 2 years at the end of this month. The success she has brought in, right? We interview a lot of people that have done successful things on a high level and have been in the industry for years. So I'm so happy to have a newer agent, technically, be on today to share some of her experience. So Maddie, let's start off with talking about what did you do when you got in the business that set you up for so much success and to be showing numbers like what we're talking about today.
Thank you for having me, by the way. I'm very honored to be here. But honestly, I think the most successful thing I could claim would be that I think I was just fearless with regards to my jumping in both feet. I never wavered on what business I was going to work in, if I was going to be dual career. I sidelined everything and gave it my 110% from day one and kind of never looked back. And some of it probably just dumb luck because you don't know what you don't know. And I never let anything stop me from trying because I completely buy into the mindset that you miss 100% of the shots that you never take. So I went on listing appointments. I called FSBOs. I did expireds. I was never intimidated by it. In fact, I just looked at it like a challenge and I didn't know what was hard or what wasn't hard for most agents. And I just kind of went for it.
Yeah, I love that. So let's dive a little deeper into that. When it comes to having conversations, did you start off right away reaching out to people? How did you do that? How did you have a database? You know, there's so many unanswered questions here that I know many agents that are getting into the business that are curious about, right? Like, how did you start having those conversations? Tell us a little more. Whitney.
Yeah, and what were those conversations? Because I know a lot of people have phone fear and also scripts or what to say and what not to say. So they just do nothing.
Paralyzed by not knowing where to start. To be honest, I would say the very first listing I ever got was a FSBO. And how I came about even trying that or understanding that that was a thing that you could do, which was convert an already listed property from for sale by owner into a listing for yours, was Wallace. In one of our coaching calls and meetings said, Maddie, I think you'd like FSBOs. Those are super hard. And I went, why are they hard? Like I was immediately intrigued by the challenge of that. And I went about trying to find a FSBO and found one on Facebook Marketplace and just picked up the phone and said, hey, this is why you should try to list your property with me. And I really didn't have a script. I probably should have, but it paid off in the end and wound up listing his house and his mother's house. So I got 2 homes, 2 listings out of that, both 200 plus. One was like 375, one was 250, I think, in like the outskirts of Lafayette area, and kind of didn't look back from there.
Yeah. So you hear that, Whitney. I know what motivates people. Some people you got to say it's easy. Some people you got to say it's a challenge and it's really hard, right? Maddie's past experiences, she's had her own businesses before. She worked in luxury retail, property management type things. What did you bring into real estate with your past experience in your past life that helped you grow your business as well?
Well, at first, I really didn't dive too deep into my sphere of influence. I definitely put the word out. I'm getting my license. I'm going to be doing this. I was fortunate enough to have a few people that raised their hands and were like, "We know you. We would feel comfortable with you. Let me go ahead and use you." And the phone wasn't intimidating for me because I had done work like that before. So I was perfectly fine with jumping on the phones and smiling and dialing, as we like to call it, and getting some traction, and like I said, just going out there. If I saw something that was on the market for sale by owner, if it was an expired, if it was, me driving down the street and seeing a sale in the front, I was taking that phone number down and I was calling them and just ran with it.
Going full force. So when did you start having conversations with your sphere? Because from my understanding, a lot of your business now is your sphere, people that maybe past clients, even the network that you built. So obviously you don't shy away from conversations around that, and you're intentional there. So what were the reasons maybe you didn't start out there? And do you maybe wish you would have a little more now that you know what you know? And what are you doing now to continue conversations in that nature?
Sure. So at first I kind of felt like I wasn't really in my sphere of influence element. I wasn't living where I had been living. I was in a transition period living in Lafayette, but my family were on one side of the state. All of my previous business partners and clients and things that I had knew from before were all in Lake Charles. So I kind of, maybe right or wrong, you don't know what you don't know again until you start trying to do something. I did not feel like that I had enough interaction or direct influence with those people at the current time. So I felt it was more important for me to build a database or build some contacts and get some things going for myself. And then the sphere of influence business kind of developed over time as I moved back to Lake Charles and kept in those people's faces with regards to what I was doing, what I was accomplishing, my business, how I was structuring things, and a lot of word of mouth, and, stayed on top of and always keeping real estate in the conversations that I was having with the people that I was interacting with and meeting on a daily, weekly basis.
So I want to stop right there because you really brought up something significant. A lot of people aren't from the area that they get their license in. Maybe they moved there. And you didn't even use the excuse of, I'm moving back in a year. So, I'm going to wait until then to start having those conversations. You said, okay, I don't have a sphere where I am. I just moved here. And so I'm going to go out and get business in other ways I know that you would go to restaurants and have conversations, coffee shops, meet people, for sell by owners expired. So that was the reason you didn't have a sphere there. You didn't really know little to no people. So you had to go build that network. And so in the midst of all that, you then move an hour plus away back to where your sphere is, and you got to almost start over again. So you did all of this in, so it's really, you've been in two markets. So it's almost like 1 year here and 1 year here. So really 1 year back in the area that you're doing, you did 50 plus closings in last year and just did it a second time. Wow.
Yeah, literally two different kind of markets too, Maddie, right? Because
drastically different markets. And then let's not forget that my family all live in the Hammond, Baton Rouge, Tangipahoa Parish, Livingston Parish area. And I've managed to do about four listings and sales on that end of the state too. And in fact, I'm closing one Thursday in Hammond that's a new construction, and that's directly sphere of influence, like friend of family. Somebody called me and said, "Hey, can you help me this far away?" And I went, "I'll figure out how to do it." So, there still was some sphere of influence stuff that came towards me just because those people knew me the best. And that probably accounts for about, I would say, 4 or 5 transactions.
That's great. That's about 10% then. Almost.
Well, yeah. And that's just the sphere that you have over there in the area that you're 2+ hours away from, 3.5 hours, I believe, even from where your mom lives. So just from that, not counting, the sphere that you've now built over here. So moving back to Lake Charles, those conversations start again. You're now in the area where you have your friends and family this past year. What did you do to be intentional about connecting with them and going through that? Did you start having conversations? giving calls to your sphere of influence? Did you have any standards that you set for yourself? Or maybe some things you wish you would have done when you did move back?
I think I probably wished I would have called more, to be honest. I have not been as intentional as I probably could have been with outlining time, whether it's daily or weekly, where this is my protected time for just doing nothing more than calling. I probably would be 3 times more successful than I am today if I had literally set that up for myself. Wallace and I talk about that all the time. I have been very fortunate that people acknowledge me and raise their hand to me. I think that comes from a lot of social media, a lot of engagement, not always direct engagement. Sometimes indirect engagement is beneficial too, where they see you doing things, you're reaching out to them, inviting them to things, whether it's real estate related or not. And then that's opening that conversation where they're going, hey, so you came to mind, you're doing this, right? And you're like, absolutely. I mean, I have an appointment right after this with a friend that I haven't talked to in probably close to 2 years that messaged me on Facebook last night and said, hey, I'm thinking about selling my house. You came to mind. When can we meet?
So, hey, hearing that, I got another question for you. So what would happen if you were intentional over the next 30 days and contacted all that sphere of influence? You already have one that's doing that. Is that where what do you think could come out of that by being intentional there?
I mean, if I sat back and looked at what my conversion metrics are, I could probably have about 30 properties in production.
Wow.
I think easily, because I think my conversion rate is about 85%. I'm usually a one and done, go in, lock the deal down. Very rarely do deals get away from me on the listing side. And I think that I think that I'm probably one of the better listing agents in the area. No shame on anybody's game, but I hit a level where I think that most people feel comfortable with me, that they know that I know what I'm doing. And I generally, the feedback that I get from my clients or even other agents in the area is that their impression of me is that I've been an agent for a lot longer. And they're usually very surprised that I haven't been an agent for 2 years. And in some cases, not even as long as they have been. So that all helps me generate and keep things going with regards to my business. And I think that that's been a huge benefit overall, for sure.
Yeah. And you made a lot of relationships with other agents in the market from day one. You were intentional about connecting with other agents, building your skill as well. I mean, you didn't stop having conversations about growing your business.
Did I show my award I got at the Market Center?
Yeah.
So this is actually an award for being the co-op agent in our Market Center that other agents in the market in the area like to work with. And that has been something that I have been so intentional about. Thank you for bringing that up, because there's so many agents out there that don't even pick up the phone, do not call, don't respond to messages. They schedule a showing with something on your listing and then nobody even reaches out to them. So I have a method that I employ on all of my listings. When an agent schedules a showing, I don't care if there's somebody that I've ever talked to before or not. I contact them directly the minute that the showing comes in and it gets approved, and thank them for showing the property. If there's any key points of interest, I go ahead and share those with them. And then after that showing is over, I still go ahead and call and text and follow up, whether they've given me feedback on the form or not. And I engage. And it's not just a matter of me doing that follow up for my clients. The whole purpose behind it is the networking. And so what happens from that is that they find out that I am easy to work with and that I'm very communicative. And when they have clients now that are looking for things, most of the time they will just text me or call me and say, hey, I've got something that my clients are looking for, without even knowing if I have it, and ask me first if I have that or something coming up like it. So I'm able to corner that client and corner that piece of the market without it ever hitting, the MLS where everything's already out there. So I'm getting in there before any other agent in the market is getting in there and representing representing my listing clients at a high level because of it.
Love that. I love that. Thanks for sharing that. What about on skill development? What are some areas that you would recommend newer agents start to learn? And I want to preface this by saying, Maddie did not try to learn and know everything before jumping in and having conversations and growing her business. She did not wait 3-6 months and just try to learn everything. She went straight into it. And while still educating yourself, while still striving to be the best. And it's paid off, obviously, in numbers and income as well. So tell us a little more. Where would you recommend agents that are, maybe just getting into the business, a year, 2 years in the business? Where would you recommend that they start improving on their skills? Obviously from experience, so they need to go get more business and have more experience. Yet, what are some things that you would maybe pinpoint that there's areas for growth that you very much appreciate?
Yeah, in a perfect world, you would have enough business at this point to feel really confident in your business. But let's face it, this is not a perfect world. I would say, number one, don't be afraid to reach out to people. I get calls from agents that are not in KW, that are not on my team all the time. They ask for my assistance. They ask for guidance. They ask for advice. They ask for perspective. They ask for second opinions, whether it's pricing, listings, knowledge, whatever. I personally am and my mindset is that we can all do better together. And I appreciate working on the other side of agents who are very skill driven. So if you're not, then I'm going to help you get there. Okay. And I don't care who I'm working with. I don't care, because like I said, we all get better together. So if I want all of the agents in the area to elevate, then you have to be the person to help them elevate. Right. So that's number one. Number two, if you know an agent that you feel that comfortable with and you think that there's an area where you're deficient, ask if you can shadow them. Ask if you can go on listing appointments with them. I have agents that I bring with me to do stuff all the time. I'm not saying that I think this way, but they have all told me that they benefit from being around me and hearing the conversations that I'm having. So they kind of absorb that in a way, in an organic way. And if that's something that you feel like that you can gain knowledge from in a more technical aspect, I would say that one of the best things that you can do for yourself is familiarize yourself with financing. Financing is the key to everything. And in every deal, there is two pieces of the puzzle, the client and the property. And if you cannot find the property to fit with your client's needs, and it's not just a like, it's a how is it going to fit in the scenario? And the bank is the person, and you have to make that work. And you have to be the one that guides the client to what it is that's going to work for them. And they may want this, but they may not be able to get that.
Right. And guide them to their options of when you're familiarizing yourself, you can give them, a wealth of options that they can dive deeper into on the financing side to learn more about what can work for them.
That's right. And
Maddie, I wanted to share something with you. So speaking of finances and what people have to do to get into a home these days, right? And at 7%, because we're used to 3%. I got a little spoiled there. I heard someone say this, and it's brilliant, right? Sometimes we have 3 seconds, the elevator speech, to get someone's attention. And when they say, "What do you do?" Listen what this fabulous agent said. She said, how interest rates have gone up. And so some people are worried about what they can or cannot afford in the housing market. And they were like, yeah, well, what I do is I help people who want to get a new house get the best home of their dreams and figure out a way, the best financial way to pay for it with the partners that I have in real estate.
And that's basically what we are. We're the gatekeepers. We're the gatekeepers. And where you're supposed to be functioning in a realm where you're the expert. When the conversation starts to lean into why should I pay a real estate agent to do this when I could do it myself, you're supposed to be the expert. That's why. Okay. So we're the gatekeepers of all of this. And if somebody steps up and says, I want to either sell my house or buy my house, and they think that they can do this, but that they can only do this other thing, that's your job. That is the job that we all hold. And communicating with the lenders, the clients and everybody to create a realistic expectation of what they can get, that is what you're getting paid for. And you have to understand what that is. And you have to understand, I would say, probably almost as close to what a loan officer does without having the licensing, so that you can navigate that for your clients.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Maddie,
you can put them in connects with the right people. I love that.
That's it.
yeah. Can I ask you a question? Because I'd love to hear what you say when you hear this, because I'm certain that you do. I'm sure everyone who's a realtor hears this on a weekly basis. Hey, I'm not interested in buying a house at 7%. Yeah, I need to buy. You know, I've been renting for 2 years. I need to buy, but I'm not going to buy at this interest rate. I'm going to wait till they go down. What do you say?
Well, like I said, I definitely would lean into their motivation and say, well, you know, what motivates you to buy or not buy? You know, and if you're perfectly fine with continuing to pay rent, I'm not here to break your arm to change your mind about that. But if you are interested in buying a home, I can show you how what you want is possible, and how, you know, despite an interest rate, people are buying homes, period. That's never changed. 100% never changed. And if you are intending towards sitting back and waiting for 3% to happen again, you might as well go ahead and forget that. Like, that was an anomaly that happened for 4 years, you know, and interest rates over time have always hovered between the 5 to 7% range. I mean, that's a national average on a traditional, probably 25 to 30-year plan. So, you know, versus in the late 90s, when things were at 12 and 14%, we're at a comfortable 5 to 6% range, 6.7% range. This is comfortable. We're at a comfortable place here, you know, and just because you can get a home at 3.25%, there are plenty of people that can't afford that house either. So do you want to afford a house? What is your budget into getting a house? What is comfortable? What is your motivation? You know, is it payment? Then we can find you something where your payment matters. Mm-hmm. You know, is it amenity or home? We can lean in that direction too. So it's up to them how hard they want for that. But if it's a matter of what you can get or not get, we can figure that out. That's not a problem.
Yeah. And historically, home prices always rise. So there's typically no better time to buy than now. And if interest rates go down, you can always refinance. And if they go up, well, you'll sure be glad that you bought at today's rate.
Sorry, I love Maddie too, about getting the motivation, asking more questions, like digging deeper.
It's all about motivation. I mean, you know, and the reality is that I could go to a car dealership and I could want for a Mercedes. It doesn't mean that I can afford a Mercedes. So if that's what we're talking about here, if you want something you can't have, then that's a whole different conversation. But if it's in your means to get it and you're just holding out for an imaginary number to make that right for you, then there's ways to make what's happening today right for you too.
I love that. Thinking outside the box. Well, Maddie, thank you so much for coming and share your expertise, your experience. Congratulations on your recent 7-figure closing in an area where the average price is $250,000. I'm sure that feels amazing. And I'm sure that checking account does as well. So thanks again for being on. I look forward to hearing more about your wins and having you back on again.
Yeah. And Maddie, can I ask a favor? If you decide to do that 30-day challenge sometime in your life and contact your database, hey, I want to have a conversation and see how that went. Because I know it's amazing. So when you decide
we'll
to
get you back on, I would love for her to commit to that.
Yeah.
Being intentional about going all the way through it. Like she said, her biggest opportunity for growth, because we all have it, right? Myself, Whitney included, is time management. And it's not that she's not contacting it on a regular basis. She's not spending as much importance of time on it as she could be, and being as intentional as she would want to be. So can't wait to see make that happen.
From day one, that there's always got to be room for growth and opportunity. So, and I'm always open to it. That is always something, you know, I'm always open to the idea of what I can do to always be better. And, you know, who knows what the future holds, but
we'll have her back on with 150 transactions next time.
Let's do it. Well, I know this. The future's bright, Maddie. Way to go. Congratulations.
Thank you.